Hey, and welcome back. Obviously, we're on episode 26 now, which feels a little bit surreal. So thank you, as always, for those who are tuning in and joining the conversations that I'm having weekly. Today, I have the lovely Matt with me, who obviously both go to PAG. How long have you been a member?
Since it opened, I think. I
Since
came
you
in the
started
day after it opened. Yeah,
Mad. I feel like I don't even know where that time's gone, to be
it's
honest.
crazy, isn't it?
So obviously we are just chatting a little bit. You've had a really exciting few months and probably a little bit more recovered now. But Matt has just recently come back from it was kind of like, obviously you had your shoot, but there was other parts about it, right? So do you want to just start with that and and then we can go back?
Yeah. It was originally like a business retreat for 3-4 days, and then the opportunity arose to do like a photo shoot.
So that only came for halfway through it, or?
Well, I booked on to do like this sort of retreat with the sort of business coach that I got.
Yeah.
And then this was kind of like the start of the year, and I wanted to start the year with a bang. So
Yeah.
I'd signed up to do this sort of like transformation challenge at the start of the year. And then I was like, I think it was sort of 2 weeks in, I was like, I need something to really light my fire. And I knew that there was a photo shoot going on. So I think sort of 2 people pulled out. And the opportunity arose to sort of jump in. I was like, let's do it. So
Amazing. And I always love stuff like that as well, because you can sometimes it's like the sort of fuck it button. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, go for it. I don't know what's on the other side, but sort of just see
It's the
what's
best way to do it.
going.
Like,
Yeah.
just jump in the deep end. That's
Yeah.
literally...
And you've done a shoot previously.
Yeah. So the first one I did was August 2022.
It's from 2024 now.
I know, it's scary, isn't it? And that was like one of the best experiences of my life. This one was definitely better. But yeah, like it's just I'm sure you can relate, such
Yeah.
a experience, isn't it? Really,
I think it's such a good place to start. I get, though, from every aspect that when people from the outside looking in is like, that's terrifying. But I think, I did my first shoot just I was like, sod it, let's see what happens. Let's see what sort of I look like. A lot of people in sort of like who I knew they're already into their transformation. So I kind of joined quite late. But actually, it was sort of one of the best things that I sort of decided to do, because I think of more how it felt in myself. Like, yes, we want to sort of see what's on the other side of it, see what we look like. But actually, it's really cool to love that process and fall in love with a process that you hadn't actually done before. Because I think we should all do stuff that scares us a little bit.
100%. And I think like even if you're not, I get a lot of it like with photo shoot. A lot of it is the physical aspect, but
Yes.
like no matter what your goal is, like it doesn't have to be. You're not trying to necessarily get shredded. Like you can literally do like a confidence shoot. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
No matter what your goal is, you're going to come out of that process like a improved version of yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something to be proud of. Like I say to a lot of my team, it's cool to be proud of yourself, like own what you do. And I think that's what taught me. I mean, originally in that first shoot, I never actually wanted to compete, which is hilarious.
How's that
Yeah. Shoot, stage prep later and in a big off season. But actually, what I loved is what it taught me for myself, because I thought no one else can't do shit for me when I'm in that process. Like, that's all me, my hard work, like what I've done, the training, what I understand about nutrition, and just applying each and every bit of information along the way. Obviously, I had a coach for all of my shoots. I don't think personally I could do it without one. Did you have a coach for your first one?
I didn't know.
That is insane, but I also think it's amazing.
It is and it isn't. Like the time when I did it, I was like, I remember when Ben, the photographer, showed me one of the shots, and like the start of the shoot wasn't going particularly well. Like I was pretty shy. I was very nervous. I'm not gonna lie for it. And then he took a shot and he said, "Come over and look at this." And like I just saw myself in a completely different light.
Yeah.
At the time, I was buzzing. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm in the shape of my life." And then like looking forward, I guess like sort of 3, 4, 5 months down the later, and like where your knowledge improves and whatnot.
Yeah.
I was looking at it and go, do you know what? I'd absolutely smoke that now. And
Yes.
that's, for me, that was one of the reasons why I did want to do this second shoot. I was like, I want to kind of like not right the wrongs, but like I made mistakes.
Yeah. I think as well, similar journey in my first shoot what I thought was lean, yes, was lean, but now I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't as lean as I thought it was. But at the time, again, with the knowledge that I knew then, it was the best position that I could have been in and the best composition and the best, like, on that day. But it's only going to get better from that. And I remember that in my third shoot with John, which was my first sort of shoot with him, he said, this is the best you look now, but it won't be the best you ever look.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's never left me. And he said the same when I got on stage. Obviously, I absolutely like gave it my absolute best shot, and it was the best sort of peak for the shoot. Obviously, it's not peak like composition entirely in terms of health, but he was like, again, you won't look like this, or you won't have this same weight ever again. He was like, but that's the fun part, and obviously bodybuilding. But it's really cool that you can constantly improve on that. And I think people are so hard on themselves on the day of the shoot. Like, I know some of my clients were like, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that. But then you don't necessarily dwell on it, think, and you look fantastic. But equally, you can use that as like I'm going to do even better the next time around, which I think people forget. We get lost and we pick apart every wrong thing that we don't like, that, you know. And I obviously even seeing the post who you were standing next to with your friend yesterday, do you know what I mean? You were probably like, oh, but actually that was insane what you did and the best you'd ever looked. So then even if you do another one, do you know what I mean? You're then going to think, oh, I could do this different, or I could do this. You're only going to improve. Like, never, you don't want to use it as a negative, because it's just going to play on your mind as well. But yeah, and it's a really empowering thing, I find. And obviously we both have clients who are working towards shoots, which I think is insane.
It's so cool, isn't it? So cool.
So I guess when you went away for this one, obviously it probably felt entirely different in terms of the look you brought compared to your first one, I'm presuming. Well, absolutely. But what you met a lot of people out there and did their journeys and things. Obviously everyone's so different, and I think people think, oh yeah, when I go on a cut it's the same as when you go on a cut. It's just not. Do you know what I mean? So it must have been quite inspiring as well, sort of speaking to other people and learning from them as well. Was there much from that you sort of got? Like, obviously you networked with a lot of people anyway, and it was nice to be in the like-minded, but do you want to expand on... Oh, it's quite a minefield, I imagine, with sort of whilst you were out there, but
the actual day itself was like incredible. Like, and
it was on a beach as well. It was so cool.
I think I said this to you. Like, it sounds really weird, but for me, like I'd already achieved what I wanted to achieve before the shoot had even started.
Yeah.
Like,
and that says it all, and that's such a statement that I guess for everyone out there who's almost like finished a cut or coming up to sort of a holiday that they've been working towards, like, use that, like, you know, you should feel proud of where you are at in your journey.
Yeah, the pictures is just like, it's a
documentation of it, isn't it?
It's a snippet of a bit of time, and actually like that little bit of time versus like what I'd put in over those 14 weeks. For me, like, those 14 weeks completely like outweigh any picture.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself and like what I'm capable of when I put my mind to something. I'm sure you're the exact same, and
that's what I really like about like the fuel to the fire. Like, I'm like, I did that. Like, I remember getting to the stage last year, and obviously I wouldn't have been able to get to that point without John. But equally, he always says a great coach isn't a great coach without a great athlete. You know, you can't, unless you sort of put in that work to do that, you know, the results, you know, won't sort of necessarily be the same. And you had a coach for this one, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And how did you find that in comparison to when you did it on
I needed it. Yeah, I needed it, like, definitely. I was very straightforward to coach. Like, if you tell me to do something, I'll go and do it.
Yeah.
But I just need someone to tell me to do it. Otherwise, if I don't have that direction, sometimes I can get a little bit like...
And did you hold back on accountability? Did you do your own check-ins when you did your first shoot? Like,
no.
Do you know what I mean? No. I find that baffling. Like, that would be really hard. Like, if I didn't have to take my check-in photos on every Saturday morning, I'd be like, nah.
I did the so obviously for this one, I did the weekly updates.
Yes, love that.
I did the same thing the previous time, because I'm not gonna lie, with that first shoot, at the time my business coach was like, do a shoot, and I was like, I put it off, because for me that was a big step outside my comfort zone.
And also, just like to pause you there, is an example for so many others in that same boat. It is a little bit scary, but equally it's not as scary as you think it is. And put yourself out of your comfort zone.
100%.
Like,
100%.
it's the most amazing thing.
I'm not sure if I hadn't done those, like with the first shoot, if I hadn't done those weekly updates, I don't think I would have probably gone through with it. I probably would have bailed halfway through. I'd have just like pulled out because
It's
I
that
didn't.
accountability
Yeah,
bit to other
definitely.
people, isn't
100%.
it? And I guess, and that is the great thing about social media as well, is obviously our lives are on it because of work. But I think it's really cool to share your journey. I remember when I first joined the gym, oh my God, way back when, and I created my fitness account. I can't even remember what it was called. Emily Ibbott Fitness. Oh, I can't
You
remember
don't want to
now.
know, do
Yeah,
you?
I don't know. Yeah, sorry, it wasn't a nice one. But I used it to just kind of share, and it kept me accountable. People were then asking me questions about the gym. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but do you know what I mean? And by sharing your journey, it doesn't have to be a public page. You don't have to think heavily about followers, but it just puts it out there, and it's cool to share your experiences because people are only going to learn from it, or you're only going to learn from it from what other people share with you as well. I remember I put up a video, and one of the guys, I was at uni, he was in a couple of years above me, and he commented on it, and I remember being like, I'm just going to go hide in a hole, just of giving me form tips. But actually now looking back, I'm like, thank you, because that was really cool to be able to have that and share that. So it must have been quite nice to share your journey through those clips. I remember doing prep updates last year, and I quite enjoyed doing that. And it's just quite nice to sort of share feelings as well,
Definitely.
because it changes week by week.
100%. And like, obviously, people work with us because of us.
Yes.
Like, they buy into your journey more. And I think
Yeah.
like that's part of the reason why it's great to do it, but also that
Yeah.
accountability as well, like definitely.
Yeah, and it's also, I think people, like, I always think this now, and I probably should share a little bit more of my training, but I always think people are going to be bored by it. Is actually people don't know how you train. They see your story highlights a day of, like, they see my oats every day, but it's that I think that they know me, but they don't. So actually, by sharing these things, and like I sometimes share like off-season updates and things like that, people are then like, oh, that's actually really cool. And I always forget that actually it's really nice to be in tune with other people and your clients, because even my clients ask me questions about necessarily my journey along with theirs, and I'm like, oh, I forget that not everyone knows what I'm doing, but of course they don't, because so it's always really nice. So for anyone out there, what we are talking about is what during Matt's journey to his shoot, it was like, well, you did like little mini kind of like vlog updates, you did like physique check-in updates and things like that, and it was just kind of, it's quite nice to document it as well, and just to explain sort of where that week is at and what's going on and what's changed, because things sort of tweak a little bit by little bit. And did you find any major changes throughout that journey?
The biggest one for me was definitely like performance in the gym. Like when I did my first cut, first prep for the shoot by myself, like my performance went down the drain, especially in those
Did
last.
you just cut cows straight away?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you don't need to.
No, no.
Trust me, you don't need to.
Yeah, I had way too much volume in my training. I wasn't really as adherent as I could have been with like nutrition, with steps. I had a few more sort of like social events and bits and pieces. I just wasn't as adherent as what I could have been.
Yes. And sort of saying to that is, I think I've had quite a few clients that have been like, oh, I can still gain strength on like when I'm like sort of cutting. And I'm like, yeah, like, no, you don't need to cut your calories in half. Like, I always say to people, you want to do as little as possible for your body to respond. Like, you don't need to jump straight into an hour on the stairs. You don't need to jump into 15K steps. You don't need to jump into like all these major extremes, because then your strength will go down the drain. You will feel rubbish, and you're going to be going from 0 to 100, and in your lifestyle it's probably not going to fit in straight away. It takes time to build that up as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the prep for this shoot, I spent less time in the gym than ever before, which blows my mind. Like literally, I trained 4 times a week doing like strength work. Obviously, there's additional cardio outside of that. But going back to what you said, getting as much as you can from as little as you can.
Yes.
And like that phrase is just perfect.
Yeah.
It sums it up perfectly.
Yeah. And I think like one of my clients, he was like, oh, when I did a cut, I didn't look great. Like, I had no strength. And he's still getting PBs, and we're like in the teens of weeks in of how long we've been working together. He's prepping for a shoot. But I just love it, especially as a coach, how you can change that perception. But obviously I learned so much about that as well through my own journey, and probably the same for yourself, it's probably then makes that outlook of when you get to that day even more different as well, because you're not looking at it as though, yes, you've put in all that hard work, but there's been so many more details that have enhanced your journey as well.
Yeah, definitely 100%.
And when you obviously you got to that day, you've done a studio shoot and then a beach shoot. How did you find that? And one was yourself and one was with a group.
Yeah, the group was like, it was a really good.
Like
I say,
vibes,
yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a good laugh.
And you're in the sunshine.
It
Where
w-
were you? I always forget. People don't necessarily know where you went. Where did you go?
It was Marbella, so
cool.
it was really really cool. Like literally on the beach, you got like boats going past. There's people walking along the side. Yeah, it was.
Was it a bit like?
It was a little
like...
bit, but then when if I was doing it by myself, I'd have probably been like, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah.
But like,
hang on a minute.
yeah, exactly. But the fact it was in a group, and obviously like you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, and everyone's like really really positive, and like supporting of each
And I
other.
guess different. There was some guys, some girls, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty even split, to be fair. Yeah, the actual day was incredible. Like it was hot.
Yeah, I bet.
And obviously, when you're there in baby, there's about an hour where I put some baby oil on. I was stood in the sun, and then one of the girls was like, "You're gonna roast. Get out the fucking sun."
Yeah, you might burn quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it must have been really inspiring as well, and watching different people, and I think it is about those vibes at the end. Like the shoot isn't there to sort of scare you off. Like enjoy it. The same as show day. Yes, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but if you take away from all the enjoyment and the vibes and the support you've got and the messages you're receiving, like I imagine your phone like blew up when you were out there, like just of people like supporting you and your clients. They know your journey that you're on. Like embrace that. Like that's really cool. And I say this to my group shooters coming up in a few weeks, is like you're all different. You're not going to be the same. You're not going to look the same. You've got entirely different lifestyles. I've got, people on shift work who are doing nights. It's not going to be the same as my girl who's doing a 9 to 5. Like you can't compare anyone's journeys. You've got different ages. You've got mums. You've got like, just celebrate your own journey, and also you can celebrate other people's, but you're a team as well, like, which is really nice. And you probably felt like that when you were with everyone else. Like it was probably just vibes off vibes.
Yeah, and it's like I think I said to you, like it's people that I've never met before. I've met my business coach once, but like outside of that, it was like, well, the shoot was 10 people, but the actual like retreat was like 20 people.
That's so
I've never
fun.
met these people before. Like I've spoke to them online, and you just get on like that.
Yeah.
Just because like you're like-minded. You're all people that are ultimately trying to improve yourself.
That mindset.
Yeah.
And that's really, really nice. And I think, like I've spoken to even friends, like I've recently joined a run club. I'm not a runner. But it's been really inspiring meeting them and seeing what they get up to. And some of them are fantastic, fantastic runners and who have done it for a really long time. But actually my goal is just to continue and not stop.
I'm actually going on a run on Thursday for the first time.
Oh, amazing.
I put it in the like community group chat that we've got. I was like, let's all do something this week to take ourselves outside our comfort zone. I've been wanting to go on a run for like months. And I was like, I'm going to do it this week. I swear. I need to find some trainers from somewhere and do it.
So, and it's like, put yourself out of your comfort zone. I mean, I always say to my clients, it's cool to challenge yourself. So, I mean, that's why sort of them doing it inspired me to do something entirely different. Because, again, I can't compare some of the girls that are finishing so much like quicker. It's not about time or anything. It's about what you're personally doing. And that should be the same with any goal that you have. And, had some of those, were there different ages at the shoot that you did as well?
Yeah, they were, that's a good question. I think most people sort of like early 20s.
Like similar-ish age.
30s.
Yeah, so it's so different. And I bet some of them have different life experience, some of them have been coaches for longer than others. And it's really inspiring to use that because I bet you only came away and thought, oh, wow, like, actually I might try that. I might implement that, with my team. Like there's no golden rule for anything. I think that we actually, same as training, like there's no magic plan that's, gonna magically make you look like Seabum. But actually a lot of them, it all kind of gets recycled down. And, even from what he learns is probably some of the Olympians, I know I'm talking the extremes, but there is only so many exercises but there's different tools in the book, so it suits
like,
different people.
Everyone there was like a different chapter of their journey, and like that's the beautiful thing. Like ultimately you're all in a different chapter, but like
Yeah.
you've
And you're just celebrating
yeah,
it on
exactly.
the same.
Yeah, it was so cool.
And I imagine you went for some delish food
Oh yeah,
afterwards.
absolutely. There wasn't much carbonara left in Marbella afterwards.
I love it. I'd be exactly the same. And it's just really awesome to sort of talk about that journey. And obviously, like I said before, we've got sort of clients doing shoots coming up. And how have you felt that your journey's impacted them in a positive way? I mean, I can't imagine it would be negative, so I don't know why I even said that. But
Just
have they kind of asked you a lot of questions and sort of it's I mean, we spoke about it. Like, I remember on prep, I felt ruthless. And it was kind of like, you can do it. Trust me, you'll
yeah,
be fine. But I think that is the point blank of it. Yes, we don't, well, we want it to embed into our lifestyle and everyone's got different goals. Like, you know, and we can have social occasions that we embed into it with still that accountability. I think people forget that. Like I've had a client who's gone on 2 holidays in the past like 3 months. I'm very jealous. And you know, it's not shifted a thing. Like it's and she's now then going to prep for a shoot. And you can still have that accountability, but the accountability can change depending on what you want to push for. I think people forget that actually we do need to fine tune things if we want to push for the like more extreme goals than others.
yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
whether you found that with all of your clients must be so different as well.
Yeah, they're all different, and I think like you said, it's very much down to the individual, and like
Yeah.
our job as a coach is to push that individual to their kind of
Yeah.
not their limits. That's the wrong way of putting it, but finding what they're
Yeah, well,
capable of.
yeah.
Like,
And also like what you can push them through because like yes, we want to be comfortable and happy, but like we can't just like happy daisy along, you know, not really we want to be out of that comfort zone. Otherwise we won't grow to the goals that we want to.
definitely.
And it's cool to push for things that you never have before. Um
I don't know about you as well. I used to be quite scared of pushing clients, like almost like
yeah, it's hard.
it's like,
Yeah.
do I do this? Do I
There's
do
a
that?
fine
And
line,
then
isn't
now I'm
there?
a bit more of a savage, but again, it's doing it to like recognizing, right, what does this individual
Yeah.
need and what are they capable of doing, and just making sure that you stay within those kind of
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like I've got better through understanding my own journey as well, because, like, I mean, John's a whole different level of savagery, but I'm always like, okay, if I don't do what he says, then what? Like, I'm only gonna get. I know I've had a few times where I've had the repercussions of where things have taken a little bit longer or whatnot, and I've only learned from that. And actually, I won't like I that push needs to happen from somewhere, which is also awesome. But do you ever have it? I'm sure you do, where you've sort of gone a bit like sort of stricter on things, and then they've gone, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, do you know what I mean? And actually, it's just sometimes until you say that to someone, they will just kind of go along with it.
they might think that you're being a dick in the moment, but
Yeah,
actually they'll realize afterwards. Dick's probably the wrong word, but
yeah, I know what
like
you mean.
you've got to you're doing it because ultimately you know they're capable of more.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the
Yeah,
underlying.
that's the best way to put
Yeah,
it. Like I mean, even if like I slightly tweak my team's cardio or like my clients' individual, and I'm like, right, okay, I've added on like 20 minutes for the week, but really I've only added in 5 minutes a session. So shush.
yeah,
Like
exactly that.
you'll be fine.
Yeah,
And yeah, it is that toughness. And I think and that's the best thing about when you're cutting, like we don't need to make major adjustments, but actually that 5 minutes in that session doesn't feel like a lot. But then when you get further down the line and actually over 6 weeks you've added, I don't know, 20 minutes, that's a lot. And that's a lot to be proud of as well, to be able to have added that on for each session and things like that. Obviously, that's only one
it's that
example.
compound effect, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, and we don't need to be like dying on the stairmaster. Like so many of my clients have said to me, "Do I have to do the stairmaster?" I'm like, no, like I'm not going to force you to go on it. Like, do not stress. And there's so many. You still want them to enjoy it, and it is still about enjoying that process. Equally, I think that people start these processes and think, actually, I do have loads more social occasions. I don't want to put a pressure on myself, and that's cool as well. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's each to their own, isn't it? And
yeah.
that's what we're here for at the end
A
of the day.
100%. And how did you find, like, sort of how you felt as the weeks went on?
Afterwards,
Yeah, and in the lead up to it, did you find those last few weeks like
I found,
savage or?
to be honest with you, I actually found the process quite easy. That's might be a little bit of a bold statement, but I find that when I'm doing a cut, I'm so laser focused,
Yeah.
and especially those last.
Know what you need to do, job done,
Yeah.
tick your boxes, get up, get it, yeah.
Exactly. To be fair, like sort of 7, 8-ish weeks out, I was like, I'm not as lean as I thought I'd be. But then I was like, right, okay, throw down the hammer. I think I said to my coach, let's do more cardio. I
Yeah.
was like, push me.
Yeah.
And instead of like running from the challenge, I sort of went headfirst into it.
Yeah.
And that is what you need to do. And I really locked in for those last, not that I wasn't locked in previously, but kind
Yeah.
of sent it a little bit
Yeah, you
harder.
can
So
like ramp it up a
yeah,
gear, and it's kind of like, I mean, I know even in sort of people when talk about stage prep, is you get to a point and you're like, okay, like we've only really just shaved the surface, and now we're starting to dig. Like that's why I always say to people when they're like, oh, I'm tired after a week of prep, I'm like, trust me, just ride the wave because it's going to be a lot harder further down the line, but in a good way. Like I was the same as you. I found it harder coming out of prep than I did actually. I loved prep. Like it was awesome, and I was probably a little bit too happy for the entire time that most people would think I would be for 30 weeks of dieting. But it's like I think sometimes it's harder for the like coming out of it and teaching people that side of things, which is what my mission is with my shoots that I have with my team. How did you find it coming out of it?
this time it's been pretty flawless. I think we spoke about
Amazing.
this last
Yes.
time. I just went off the rails for 5, 6 months, like literally.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah, it's the longevity that makes such a difference. Like I found one of my shoots, I was like, okay, kind of didn't really know what I was doing, but I was none the wiser. Second time, I knew exactly what was going on. I ate far too much for far too long over a long period of time, and I felt uncomfortable till I started with John. So, but you only learn from it. Again, it's a positive. Like, and that's why like having your coach, like talk to them as well, like even with the little bits of struggle through that, which are probably I imagine was harder because no one really teaches you how to come out of a diet, and especially these like diet companies or whatever, we don't talk about them in the gym. They don't teach you, hence why you go back.
yeah,
And it's so important. So if you sort of you obviously had your enjoyment and all of those things, which I always say, like, you know, we're human, like we want to,
I think
and I
you need at
imagine
least a couple.
yeah,
Yeah,
like we'd be boring otherwise. Like I remember John gave me kind of like a few days or like just under a week of like, don't be a dick, keep some structure, but you know, you can sort of enjoy yourself as well, which I think, you know, is completely normal. But it's then understanding sort of why we need to be a bit more cautious of that, because your body is in like, especially being super lean, and when you get to that, it's understanding why we can't go mental and just sort of do everything we want, our minds want us to do, not what our bodies need us to do. It's very different. So how have you, what are the protocols that you've sort of had since in place? Are you still being coached?
I not at the moment.
Okay,
I'm starting
finished.
again with that coach in June. I know
Just some freedom, yeah,
with me, I have to want to do something. And
which makes
I
sense.
didn't want to go straight into a building phase. I was
Yeah,
like, do you know what? I'm lean. I'm quite happy being lean for the next
yeah.
2 months, 3 months through
And it's
summer.
fun. Like, you know,
Yeah,
you can maintain, obviously, you can't maintain necessarily being stage lean, but generally lean for like shoots and stuff, like you'll be fine. Like, you can maintain it. And,
yeah, definitely.
you know, there's only a few things that you need to sort of like just keep up, just to keep up that expenditure and just finding that balance. And it might take a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks, just to find sort of where that sweet spot is, which I imagine you're probably in a great place now.
Yeah, well, the thing for me is like before, like literally straight after the shoot, I think it was the day afterwards, I'd gone onto my laptop and I'd set everything up so that I
Yeah.
knew what I was going to be doing in terms of my training,
Yeah.
my expenditure, like
Yeah.
straight after the shoot. Um, so yeah, I knew this time around, like learning from last time, what not to do.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
get a bit of a shock when I stepped on the scales when I got home, but like ultimately, as soon as you settle back into routine, it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
um,
absolutely. And you know, we also can't be so restrictive that you know what I mean, like for you not to enjoy the rest of Marbella, to you want to just sort of relax and be also sit in the being proud of it
yeah,
thing,
definitely,
which we
definitely.
spoke about at the start, which is awesome. So very exciting then. So are you going into a building phase?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it sort of end of June, I think, and
Nice.
then just see where that takes me.
See,
There
yeah,
is part of me that kind of wants to do another shoot like this summer.
love that.
Um, I don't know. I think as I said to you, like before the actual shoot, I'd achieved everything I wanted.
Yeah.
But I also look at those pictures. I'm like, I could still push
It's
a
cool.
little bit
Yeah, and
further.
that's where I think you can embrace that.
Yeah,
Like, you know, you can embrace wanting to push further, like shoots aren't going anywhere and stuff. Like you've still got the opportunity to if you wanted to do another one like this summer and things. But that goalpost can change. Exactly as you've said in the past like few weeks, that's changed from when you first come out of it to now. Like I think that people get stuck in the we must be lean or we must build or we like you can maintain, you can kind of sort of have that sweet spot, you can either push into a building phase, like it's cool to do whatever you want to do, not what everyone kind of perceives. Like I found it really different being obviously in a building phase in summer, which I've not done for the past 4 years. And it's been bizarre, but I love it. Like,
Yeah.
I think you ultimately you just want to be confident throughout all phases and happy with what you're doing rather than thinking, oh, I want to be doing something else when you're doing this thing. Or, you want that can switch, but just kind of what you want to do more than anything else.
But for you found, I don't know if peace is the right word, but like you're actually embracing the building phase. And that's, you speak to most coaches and most people, like building phases are where most people get lost because that end goal, like there is that delayed gratification. You put in the work and you can't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna see what's underneath it for a long time. Probably for at least another year, which baffles me slightly. But I think I'm really trying to preach embracing like off-season bulking, whatever you want to call it, improvement season. Because like that's where we can build. You can have energy. Your pumps can be phenomenal. Like, not to say that that's not going to be the same in prep or shoot prep or whatever, but it's just a very different feeling. And I never thought I'd be so confident in, I hate saying that word because it's like, oh, I'm really confident. I'm amazing. I don't mean it like that. But I was really nervous to feel, I was expecting to feel like crap for the whole of off season and feel bigger. But actually it's like once you're in that sweet spot of just that gradual build and having energy and seeing where your training's going and also life and business and things, like I've got those focuses this year. Not that I didn't last year, but again, I've got sort of a little bit more time to sort of give to other things like this. So, because I basically started this podcast straight after prep. So it's like been my journey on off season. But I think most people would be like, oh my God, 2 stone heavier. Like I feel rubbish. Like you don't like, it's not like building phases aren't like I'm just going to put on loads of weight. Like it's cool. And yeah, it's fun to say the least, but it is very different. So it's just kind of, what your mind's doing. It's got to match what kind of your journey is on anyway.
I think as well, like with obviously building phase, it's just embracing that there is body fat's going to come with it.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the hardest things to wrap around. Like you're going to look worse when you finish it than when you started it in most cases.
Yeah.
On pretty much all cases.
Yeah.
To be fair.
And having that, and also what I never did between my shoots was have a coach during that. So it's really nice to have that accountability. In that sense, like obviously John knows me like literally inside out in terms of like into a shoot, out of a shoot, into stage prep, out of a stage prep, which is also awesome. So it's not just there, your coaches aren't just there for just when you want to cut. Equally, that's awesome. But imagine what that same accountability can do in off season or improvement season, bulking, whatever. Because I think people, like you say, just can go into the abyss of, I'm just going to eat loads of food. But actually, I think, people forget how much food we need to eat. And trust me, you still can't accidentally get big. I promise you, if you go in a bulking phase, you're not going to accidentally get big. I'm still trying. Which I think is the sort of the misconceptions with that side of things. But yeah, exciting. I feel like we've been on a whole journey through all of...
Europe.
All of you. Yeah. Which is awesome. And I think it's just being sort of about inspired by the people you're around, and even though you were not on the same journey as any of the people in your shoot, and using their journeys and the what you've learned from having your coach this time around, and sort of even you've probably got things in your head for how you want to improve your improvement season from when you didn't have a coach to when you have a coach for this time, and that's really cool to embrace. But yeah, what a journey. I'm really excited for what's in store for you as well. And obviously, where can people find you? As this is being filmed, but obviously some people don't always watch the film. But yeah, where can people find you in terms of your coaching, in terms of your journey? Like, yeah.
Instagram at coached by Mattie. ITTIE.
There you go. It matters. So yeah, and thank you so much for joining me. Awesome. And obviously, if you guys have any other questions or about our journeys, about our shoot stuff, like, I can get Mattie back on and we can chat away about any other topics that you sort of want to, which is cool. So hopefully we will see you on the next episode. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube, A Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness and TikTok, m.ibbott. See you on the next episode.